Oh, it's over there making noise. I might need to go back to those today. Damn. I'll have to play with this later. I could speak, but I can't hear, you couldn't hear me. I have to wear my lymphatic, you don't realize, like, I was getting like all these ear infections. Like, and I never had ear infections in my whole life. And then I think that the way these come down and they cup your ears, it was stopping my eustachian tube from draining. And since I stopped wearing these all the time, knock on wood, I have not had the issue. I mean, I still get congested and stuff because that's just how it is. But yeah, it was like to be, you know, an adult, and then all of a sudden you've got all these ear infections, and then they're like talking about ear tubes. I'm like, oh no, 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 no. All right, so let's get going on this. I'm very excited to do this call for everybody because this is a really important topic, and there are, there are a, everybody and their brother, is talking about, you got to do this particular thing to make the money, and you got to do this particular thing to make the money, or whatever, like learn this skill. And I do believe in skills. I do believe in a three-pronged approach, which is the right action, enough action, and what's going on here in between your ears. Three things are the reason why people either succeed or they struggle. But so many people get tied into like the right skill, which is, I think, super important, or they're just going into personal growth book after the next one, after the next one, and the next one. And it's like they can never grasp the secret sauce to success. And, I've been an entrepreneur since 2001. I've shared my story on some of the other trainings, and I was very fortunate because I grew up in a household where my grandmother, who was in her 60s in the 1970s, had an antique store. So I had this role model of this, business woman, she was single, and she, was a single mom and all this stuff with my mom. And then my mom had multiple businesses and helped my grandmother. And so when I start my business, I started my first company in 1994. My dad incorporated it for me. And I was, trying all these things to get my businesses off the ground. I was importing horse equipment from England, and I was doing horse antiques and blanket repair. And I tried all these different things. And then I started in network marketing in 2001, and that's what really took off for me. But I saw people that grew like really fast, and then I saw people that didn't grow at all. Like, no matter what they did, they could not grow. And then I started studying these things, and like, what's the difference? Oops. I'm having quite a morning, huh? Trying to grab some out of my fridge, and my fridge is like going crazy. And so it's like, what's the difference between the people that, are successful and that walk across the stage? Because every business, it's very interesting. Every business, whether it's network marketing or, you know, franchises or whatever, you always have like, or even in corporate America, right? 2% of even corporate American, like a big company, 2% of the employees are going to be the executives, right? And in network marketing, it's 2% that walk across the stage and get the big money and the big awards. It's always 2%. It's 2% that are going to be the ultra rich. There's 20%, you go back to the 80-20 rule where it's like you got 100% of the sample size. 100% of these, everybody say network marketing, or everybody that is an insurance agent, or everybody that has a franchise or whatever. And then you're going to, of all of that group, you're going to have 20% that does good, right? They're doing good. But then you have there's the 2% that a lot of people don't talk about, the 2% within the 20 are the mega success people. And the two percenters are the ones that are the seven-figure earners, eight-figure earners, nine-figure earners, and what's different with them. And I've gone through my own journey of going from a very successful network marketing business where it took me, I was not an over, I mean, I was overnight in a way where when I started building in November of 2001. I joined in May of 2001, but I farted around and learned about the products. I mean, I didn't really hit it. And then I really hit it. It was probably September of 2001. I was really hitting momentum by November. And I grew really fast. And then I flatlined for, after a couple of years, I flatlined for like 8 years. And I couldn't grow no matter what, no matter how many hours I put in, no matter what strategies I did, I couldn't grow. And then I did have some major rewiring of my brain by a coach who I worked with in 2012 that helped me really think more like an entrepreneur than a business employee. Because going back even to good old Robert Kiyosaki, the four quadrants. You guys are everybody here watch. That's like one of the entry level books, right? You get in if you don't have it, you have to. Robert Kiyosaki talks about we've got the four quadrants. We've got the employee people, the employee mindset people. You go to work, you work in 4 hours, you get paid 4 hours, and then you get your insurance. Your insurance gets paid for, your retirement gets paid for, all of that stuff. And that's the employee mindset. They don't want any more, they're happy, content, and that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But then there's the next group, which is like if you look at the quadrants, it's the lower left one. If you're looking at it, it's the small business owner. And the small business owner basically is an employee of their own business. They've got their own little thing going or big thing, and they are working just as hard and grinding it out as an employee. And they're basically getting paid dollar per hour for their own business. And they're stuck. And the thing in this group of people is they can't scale. They don't have the infrastructure to scale, and and most of that infrastructure is mental infrastructure. They really need to really work on getting their brain right and working on that. So we have those. Hold on, I'm trying to manage something here with the chat thing. The small business people are they're stuck. They're working 80-hour weeks, maybe 60 hours on a good week. They can't get above a certain growth or income in their business because typically they're a one woman or a one man show, maybe like a couple employees, right? Not a lot. Then we move to the large business. That's the upper right part of the quadrant, where this is where leverage comes in. And I think that leverage is used in business a lot. And it's kind of like in network marketing, we use the word duplication and nobody really knows what the hell it means, right? So what does right? I know all of you are laughing right now because it's true. Go duplicate your business. What? No, like all the chickens are running all over the place and you're chasing rabbits and nobody's duplicating and the company says use the system and you're like, what the hell's the system? That's a different story, a different day. I could play the violin on that one all day long. But the same ironically goes to big business. How does somebody go from maybe a multi six-figure business to a seven-figure to a multi seven figure business. And that's when we get to leverage. And what does leverage mean? Leverage means you're using something other than yourself to grow the business. You could leverage money, you could leverage employees, you could leverage maybe, resources in the community, you could leverage AI. You're using something to help you grow that's not you and your efforts. The main thing that we use when you get to the big business is other people's efforts. And the funny thing was, this was not, I have a whole list of other notes I was going to go into for this, but I'm just jumping right in with the 4 quadrants. I don't know why, but it just, they came in. Somebody wants to hear this today, I guess. Somebody may be reading the book. I don't know what's going on, but it's super funny. Like, this is where I started, but I wanted to share kind of the background of like what we're talking about with the business and what gets people to the right side of the quadrants, which are large business and investor. So the large business is usually based on leverage, which it's not you grinding it out. It's not you, putting in 80 bazillion hours and you're not the whole sole driver of the business. And I could tell you from my personal experience, going from small business to leveraged large business in the multi seven figures, it's really hard to some degree because you got to let go of all the paradigms and you got to hire people and you got to like shake the brain loose. And I'm going to talk about what a lot of that is. That's what this call is going to be about. But I want to give you like the premise of where I'm coming from. So the larger business is going to be where we're leveraging other people in some way, other people's money, other people's time, other people's effort. Okay. That's how anybody in big business scales. In network marketing, you're going to leverage a team. You're going to show them how you did your business and how they could be successful. Therefore, it helps you grow, and then they do the same thing. In a real estate office, there's a broker, and then there's the agents with the broker. So the broker is saying, here's my secrets, and they get a cut of the efforts of those agents, right? Same with insurance office. Even any corporation, larger, like I would say 25 plus people, or even 10 plus, depending on how people are leveraging. These days, there's so much you can leverage through technology. You don't necessarily need hundreds of employees, but you're using the efforts of other people that work with them to help them triple their own result or more. And we see that through what doesn't matter the business model, right? It could be anything. You could see how you leverage other people. And there's one of my favorite books is 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan. And Dan talks about this. And any great, business leader that's done well will talk about this to some degree. Another really good book is the old E-Myth by Michael Gerber, where it's the franchise model. But I read or listened to that. I listened to it through audiobook, and I took a lot of what he said, and even because I coach a lot of network marketers and people in direct sales and small business owners, and a lot of what he said was so applicable to this even, leveraging. And he's really saying, why does franchise have such a high success rate? And it's because they have, when somebody buys a franchise, they're buying the system. And there's a system that people are following, and that's why they're often running if they follow the system. So again, it's leverage. Even the corporate headquarters for the franchise is leveraging the franchise owners, right? And then the franchise owners have a mutual benefit from the corporate, but they also are leveraging with employees. So, you know what I mean? So like, that's how we get a lot more done with, efforts of multiple people. Now, once your business gets to a certain size where it's rolling, like when you're first growing it, you got to be hands in the dirt when you move to the business side to help train and, la la la, and then get people off the ground. But then eventually the business is running kind of without you. You can step back and finally reap some of those rewards of freedom that you've always wanted. This can be, like I said, a network marketing business, a franchise, a realtor, and any business, right? Could be a well-run business of 10 employees or less. And Stu, it's both. He talks about the quadrant and all in these both of those books. Yeah. And when you get to the point where the business is running and you can step out, then you can be an investor. You can start investing even as you move from, like there's like bleed over, right? You go from employee to small business owner, and there's kind of like a gray area as you transition. And then when you go from small business owner to leveraged business owner, there's like a transition time to get there. Well, same with leveraged business owner to investor. You'll start investing and building that to the point of where you can start putting money into passive earning investments. And that is a transition. And then eventually the goal is to step out of the business and then go into being an investor, and all your fruits have finally come to be harvested. But the thing is, I will share with you, because growing multiple businesses in the past and watching my own family of business owners and then mentoring business owners and getting mentored by business owners, the getting to seven figures and above takes more than grinding it out in skill. Yes, I will always say skill is super important, but there are things that people that get to the leveraged business owner and investor do that other people don't. And there are things that the people that walk across the stage that are the 2% do that the others don't do. And these things are, I think I was talking to said, one of the greatest things that they do is they read the autobiographies of the highly successful people, and they can help them navigate their own problems and for future things that could happen. And you can see how these people navigated these issues. Oh, I forgot to get some water, but I kind of like that a whole lot better. Have anybody had the blue one, the Sacred Life one from kombucha from GT's? It's like magic in a bottle. I swear. Whoever did that formula did such a great job. Anyways, I had to like break up. It's a little mentally heavy here that we just went down the rabbit hole. But so what's the secret sauce that gets you into momentum? And I'm not going to lie, I think it is secret sauce because it's not intuitive, but it is in a way. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to share some of the things that I sat down, I brainstormed 10 things that people do that are ultra achievers that make you a 2%. And I have found from coaching people for a very long time, you figure I started in network marketing in 2001, which is a business that is basically you're trying to lead a volunteer army, right? And a lot of times we get people in our teams that are go-getters, and we get a lot of people that don't go anywhere, and they just take time and sanity, things like that. It's with any business, right? It could be any business. And then I've been a coach for network marketers since 2016. And I always think like, what is the difference between, these people that achieve it, these that don't? And because as a coach, when you're running your own team, of course you want the team to perform. But the team will never surpass the leader. Okay. And the same goes from being a coach myself and in mentoring people that have businesses. I always think, like, what is it that's holding these people back? I'm always trying to figure it out and be better so I can better coach people. And, I'm going to share what I think those things are. And also, I think that some of the biggest thing is, I'm going to make sure I'm not going to be redundant. Hold on a second. Let me get out of full screen mode. I'm going to talk about this. Yes. Okay. It's not on here because I don't want to be redundant and go, oh, here's number 6 again. I firmly believe that many people, especially in home business opportunities, they don't, and I feel very strongly about this, they're not in for the long game because, and it's not necessarily their fault because business opportunities are like, hey, you can come in here and hardly do anything and be rich. A lot of times that comes from the company, it comes from corporate, it comes from the uplines, and you just need to talk to your friends and family and you're going to be able to retire. That is the essence through that industry. But even when people buy franchises or they're starting other businesses, realtors, there's often a perception issue that you're really playing for the long game. And it's going to take as long as it takes. And you can accelerate the time that it's going to take to go from where you are to 6 figures, multi 7 figures, or 7 figures, multi 7 figures, or beyond. And what speeds us up, I will talk about the 3 things that people either it makes or break them in business. And it will, I will say, this has been something that I sat down and I figured out like years ago, because I'm like, what is it that creates, momentum or lack thereof? And it's not enough action. Maybe the skills aren't there. And then what's going on in between the brain? And if you want to improve momentum, you increase the skill, you increase the action, and you grow mentally, so you have more capacity to handle what's coming at you. And I can tell you from a fact that when you go from a 6-figure earning business to a 7-figure, which I've done that, and I couldn't say this 5 years ago, but you have to totally change what's going on in your brain to handle that. Because there's a lot that will shock you when you're surprised that comes up for you as that happens. And so I think that one of the biggest things that I see in business is people give up too easy. I see it a lot. I'll even see it when I'm coaching people. I have a lot of network marketing clients, and they'll come in and it'll get a little hard, and then they've switched to another company. And I'm like, what? Why? Why did you do that? Unless your company is imploding, I can tell you the grass is not greener on the other side. And you are going to find the same problems in the new company. I'm just going to tell you, I just like, because the problem is in the mirror, and people, they want instant gratification. We're in an instant gratification society, right? I mean, you can open your phone and go to Amazon and have most things on there either today or tomorrow. Oh, my little alarm went off. So you can have instant gratification. If you want to know something, you can go right to the computer and phone, and you can say, Siri, tell me this, what about this? And she's like listening right now. So you can say, you can get an answer almost on anything immediately. You can have almost anything you want within a day, right? You can have food delivered to you in a matter of 20 minutes, unless you live in the middle of nowhere, like Oklahoma or something. But we are instant, medications give instant relief, that type of thing. And so we often, that mentality will come into business where I'm going to join this company or I'm going to start my own business. And in the next 30 days and would be rich. Some people are not always are like that, but I mean, it's fine when you start, but there's a lot of thoughts and alone time between you and your goal. This could be, for me, it was 10 years to get to a six-figure residual business in network marketing. There was a lot of time that I was left to my own thoughts in those 10 years that is either going to keep you going or pull you back. And that is, it's all great. You could be here, be on this training and listening, and then you're alone by yourself in the afternoon. And then you're like, your own self gets you. And how do we what's that secret that gets them into hyper momentum? So the first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to give you 10 things, but this is really the first, and maybe it's not the 11th, it's the first, because the main thing is play for the long game truthfully. How can you invest in yourself today to be, and I'm going to say this, it's the worst cliche thing in the entire world, but it's the journey, not the destination. I know that's horrible, and I hate that, honestly, but it truly is, because when you get to your goal one day, your life is not going to feel different. When you're like, oh, I'm making my first $10,000 check or my first $20,000 check or whatever it is, I'm going to tell you, rainbows and unicorns do not come out of the sky. As much as I would like to tell you that, it doesn't happen. So what we have to be ready is for the long game, and really work on that commitment. And I talk about that a lot when I coach people, but we really have to stay committed in playing for the long game. So that's the first thing. But one thing, I'm going to give you these 10 things that these top 2%ers, what I feel they have. And one thing is they are focused. They are almost obsessively and relentlessly focused on revenue generating activities. I've said this, and somebody called me out on it the other day. I thought it was funny. Who was it? Somebody in my life. I don't remember who it was. I sit down at my desk every day and I think, what can I do today to make money? And I'm gonna tell you, it's definitely not organizing my office. Because if you came in here, you'd be like, it's not terrible, but I have boxes on the others. So when we moved here 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and I literally came in the office, got it as functional as possible so that it would work, and then I started working. I have 3 boxes on the other side of this monitor that are half unpacked, because I was like, unpacking that stuff does not make me money. And that's the truth, you know? So the first thing is relentlessly focusing on revenue generating activities. We call this income producing activities. And we say that a lot in network marketing. So what it is what leads you to growth, and you do those things. It could be increasing your sales, it could be investing, it could be scaling your business. So in network marketing, or any type of business like real estate or insurance or whatever it is, even a small, the laundromat in town or the pizza place has to do this. Always finding new people to get eyes on your business. That's the number one income producing activity. Getting you in front of them. And how can you do that? That's the number one thing. When I hired that coach that I worked with in 2012, the number one thing he had me do was start recruiting again, like I had just enrolled. And I had already been in business 11 years. So that is very much the main thing. Of the only way out of getting unstuck is talking to new people and getting new people started. And often it's not enough of that action is happening. But that's the first thing, is absolutely focusing and only doing income producing activities as the primary thing in your actions. The second thing is being resilient. There is going to be setbacks that are going to kick your butt sideways, and your perspective is going to be very important when setbacks happen, that you're resilient and you look at this as an opportunity to be better, learn more. What could you learn from that situation? I always say, how did this happen for me, not to me? How did this happen for me? Why did this happen for me? How am I going to be better because of this? And some of you here know my story. Myself and Monty, we've gone through some stuff. And I always knew, even when because thank God I'd already had a lot of this like growth and, perspective. I knew it was happening for me, even though it was really difficult. And that resilience is really critical, because your business growing to 6 and 7 figures, there's a lot on the table. And you're going to have things that are going to happen on the way that could shake that or could shake you. And when things like that happen, how you respond is going to be very critical. And not only like you can't go through life without having things happen. Good things happen to good people and bad people, and bad things happen to good people and bad people. Like, we can't get through life on roses and sunshine every day, but how resilient you are is going to be very, very critical. Okay. So the third thing is going to be is calculating your risk taking. And you can't shy. I almost run to risk. Like, I'm not a risky person with my physical body. Like, no airplanes or like, zip lining over here. But I take a lot of financial risk, but it's calculated risk. And, being strategic with the risk that you take, and then, looking at data and the outcome possibilities. And even when, like, even in, most of I teach Facebook ads, right? I teach a lot of things like I am right now because I love this. Like, I teach more than ads, but when I came into the coaching arena, I thought, what's the biggest problem that people are having in their business? And it's that they don't have enough prospects. Like, if you don't have enough prospects, you have no business. So that's why I love teaching ads. But that's side tangent. But the thing is that um, when you run ads, you have to take calculated risks as you increase your budget, right? You take calculated risks when you decide to invest into something for your business. You take calculated risks as you grow and you scale. So you have to look at that and, do the best you can with your data and investing. Like, last year and the year before for us was a huge expansion year, so that we had to take a lot of calculated risks with investing into resources and infrastructure into this business, and calculating the best way we could is what the ROI could be. And I will tell you, there's a great resource for all of you. Has anybody heard of the SCORE mentors? No? Small Business Association of America has a program called SCORE. Yeah, Dr. Marietta Willis, she knows. Um, SCORE is wonderful. It's a Small Business Association of America has business owners that are kind of paying it back to small business, to other businesses. And the mentors are usually business owners who are either retired or they are in between businesses or things like that. And they have a lot of resources and experience. And I'll tell you, I run, a coaching business, and I've had network marketing businesses. And when I was scaling this business, I've had mentors, but I really wanted a very different perspective from somebody to help me see things I would never have thought of. And I contacted small business. If you go to score.org, that's their group. You can see if you can find a mentor in your area and you can meet with them. I met with her on the phone. She was the most incredible woman in the entire world. She was so great. She was instrumental for us getting to seven figures. She really helped me more than anything get my head on in a different way. She showed me things in a different perspective that I never would have thought. And that's what I wanted, that, because when you're in network marketing or whatever kind, business you have, sometimes your mentors are all in that same field. And then you just need somebody fresh. And I would in a heartbeat recommend Score. Just talking about, I got with Score to talk about how to leverage money. I really wanted to know, how can I scale my business and, come up with ways to do that, and resources. So it was calculated risk taking. And I went and I got a Score mentor for a short period of time. It was so awesome. So that's the third thing, is that calculated risk taking. Now, the fourth thing is obsessive learning and adaptation. Constantly seeking knowledge. You're not going to see a 2%er sitting and watching 4 hours of TV every day. They're not going to be scrolling on their phone all day long. If you notice on your social media, if you belong to, like, I've got horses, I'm in horse Facebook groups, right? I also am interested in like health, and whenever, or even your leaders of your companies or whatever industry you're in, if you go to your chat groups and things like that, do you notice those top 2%ers are typically not in there? They're not in there. They're not even going to answer. They're busy doing their 2% thing. And so they are very, very obsessed with learning, not wasting their time. They know that every minute of the day is super precious, and every minute is used to get more skill, more capacity, more, personally growing, able to handle stress, seeing things in different perspective. They know that the greatest asset to their business is them. So you invest into YOU. That's the ticker symbol on the stock market. It's YOU. Invest into YOU. They know that's the one to invest in. So like when you're driving, you're listening to something. When you're going to bed at night, instead of watching, the replays of American Idol, they're listening to something before they go to bed, or they're reading, or they're taking seminars, or they're getting coached, or whatever it is. They're learning, always learning new skills. Very important thing. So that's the fourth thing. The fifth thing is they're very good at sales and negotiating, no matter what business they're in. And a lot of people that have their own business, especially even in network marketing, is they're trying really hard not to be in sales. So, I don't know, I think truthfully, the old school, sales version that we think of people in the old days, the sleazy sales guy, right? At the used car lot with the polyester suit and push, push, push and high pressure. Truthfully, I just got to say, that's bad sales. That's bad sales, even in the realm of sales. So a lot of people, they've got these connotations that are in their brain about being a salesperson. But the best sales is sales that you don't even know you're being sold. Right? So but you could do the same thing. And you can become that person that is skilled in sales and great at negotiating, and you're not icky. People are going to love you for selling them on what you do. Because truly, the way I looked at when I was joining network marketing was the better I became, the more people I could help as a marketer. The better marketer I became, the more people I could help. I'm a scientist by degree. I have multiple degrees, and they all have an S in them for science. And that doesn't typically come with good at sales or good with people even sometimes. So I really had to work on this skill. So I will invite you. That is really will pay you back in dividends for sure. One thing that a 2%er does is they seek out other high performers and hang with those people. They really will go out of their way to develop relationships with other 2%ers and successful people. It is very important. I will tell you this for a fact. I'm in a mastermind group of incredible, high performing people. I'm constantly reaching out to people and networking with them and gifting them, hey, I saw you ask this question. Here's some things that I think might, this is something that I do or I love on them. We've got to make an effort to make friends, especially high performing friends, because it's lonely sometimes up here. And then, you are who you hang with. That experiment where you've got the tuning forks. Have you guys ever seen that experiment where you got the tuning fork over here that could be like F? You take the tuning fork over here that's D, you bring them together, they're different vibration, they don't do anything. But if you take an F and you bring another F together, this one will actually make this one vibrate. So we really want to, be conscious and consciously seek out other people that are where you want to go, or they are where you are. You know what I mean? You gotta keep your vibe up. It's really important. So you've got to have these networking, these connections with other successful people. It's also like I'm going to say another. I'm dropping the cliches today. It's all in who you know, right? The perfect truth example of this is go listen to the radio. Are the most talented people on the radio, right? No. It's all, they must have known somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. Yes, some of them are very talented, but this goes back to who you know is, and who you hang with will make or break you. It could totally make you, is in who you know. So that's the sixth thing. The seventh thing is being a massive action taker. It's not about planning or strategizing endlessly. 2%ers are extremely aggressive. And as they go, they adjust as they go. So the way I like to say this, and some people don't like this, but you look at you track what you're doing for a week or two, and then you look at the results. If you want more results, you increase that activity of what you did in your tracker. So like if you say you sold 5, let's just use an example, like this week and next week, you sold 5 widgets or whatever that thing was you sold. I'm just going to say that you got five sales a week. So you look at the efforts that got you 5, and if you want 10, you got to double your efforts. If you want 100, you're going to have to, was it 20x it or whatever, So you have to really look at what you're inputting to get the output. And if you want more output, you've got to increase that level. And that's how I looked at my business. I'd be like, okay, so I did 2 presentations a week and I would enroll 6 people. If I want to enroll 10, I got to do 3 presentations. There's a direct correlation of action to result. And if you want more result, you have to X amount that action, whatever that would be. Okay. It's really simple, but most people do not take massive action. They think that sending one email, one text. Hey, what do you want this thing I got? No, okay, bye. Like that's no massive action. Like when you're doing a run and really building your business, no matter what you're doing, you could be putting in a lot of hours, even temporarily, when you're going to try, when you're going to the next level. My last 3 months, for example, I'm not building network marketing, but my last 3 months, I've probably been working 18-hour days for the last 3 months. And those of you who are my clients know you get emails back at 2 a.m. It's just like what happens sometimes when you're going through the keyhole. Massive action. And it has to be the massive action that's income producing. That too. So this goes into the next one. Number 8 is extreme personal discipline. It's not always easy, everybody, but extreme personal discipline. Really, your habits and your actions around your health, your mental sharpness. You've got to protect your brain at every cost. Do not be watching things or reading things that are bringing you down. If you're on social media and you're getting stressed out by reading things or certain types of posts or whatever it is, even though you might be interested, that's not good for this. You don't have time for that. You've got to protect your mind and your energy and your emotions fiercely. It's very, very important. Extreme personal discipline when it comes to, and I'm a huge one on this. I could do a whole 3 hours on it. I'm actually thinking about doing a training like this about taking care of your body when you're a high performer, because like it's really important. You will break down under stress if you don't have a strong constitution and you don't support your stress. And this is the nutrition part of me coming out. I might do that on another one. I want to do one for you on tools to use for your business. And I want to do one about nutrition. It's just going to keep coming and coming, as I do these Wednesdays. But this one I think is a foundation for success. That's my goal with this one, was like, what do I need to do that's the intangible? And I'm like, that's why I came up a list of 10 things, I mean, there's a lot of things, but this is the top 10. So being disciplined personally, getting to bed, not, doing things is going to hurt your brain or your focus or your ability to perform. I could tell you in these masterminds of successful people that I'm in, what they do to keep themselves cognitively sharp is amazing. They're always talking about the nootropics they're doing, or they're working out, the cardio, the fitness, and they're not doing it necessarily to stay like fit and svelte. They know it impacts their performance. Again, you're investing in the YOU. And trust me, there's times that I don't like doing fitness things, but I'm like, I got to do it, in order to do that and not put junk. I think the number one thing before I move on to number 9 is not to put junk in your brain. Don't put junk in your brain. If it's not, just think of, reading stressful stuff on the internet or watching TV shows or doing things that are not good for you. It's almost as bad as eating junk food with red dye. You know what I mean? It's so toxic to you, what we do, or even toxic relationships. You can still love toxic people from a distance. I love you, but you're over there. Bye. Hopefully it's not your spouse or your children. Sometimes you live with them, but really creating a healthy boundary mentally around it as best you can. Number 9 is being a visionary and then going after that thing. So you're not just creating goals and goals and goals. You're setting a goal and you're having a vision, and then you're going towards the vision. It's not just cranking out ideas. I'm sure, does everybody here know somebody who has got all these ideas of grandeur and you've known them for like maybe decades and they're still never done anything? Like there's just more visions and they might even be great visions, but they've their wheels have spun for decades and they've never done anything. It's great to be a visionary. It's super fun, right? To plan things out, but then going for it. That, dreaming big and then going after it. You know, success loves speed and action, right? That's something that people say. Success loves speed and action. And so, you take your goals and you systematically break them down into actionable steps and get them done. Okay. So that's number 9. And then number 10, which I talked about a little bit already today, is being a master of leverage and scaling. And leverage these days looks different than it even did 5 years ago with the advent of so many tools that are available now through, AI. And I'm not, AI can help you. As my students know, and my clients, I don't like it when people are writing ads using AI because you got to learn how to write ads first before you use AI. But there's a lot of things through automations we can use. There's tools we can use that can consolidate things, hiring teams, partnering, really investing into teaching your teams that you work with. All of these things will help you scale. And I went into scaling earlier quite a bit with the 4 quadrants, but really getting intentional about what can I do that I can take this effort and make it like work for me for more than one time. Like, how can I get repeat return on this effort that I make? So if I set up an automation for my business once, will it, like, for example, my clients, I show them how to run ads, and some of the things that we have in the process are automated. Initial texting is automated, initial email is automated, so you're not constantly this on the phone, right? You still have to talk to people, but a lot of that initial stuff is automated. That's just an example of what I mean by automation. And then, of course, leveraging other people. At some point in your business, you will be the first person you'll probably hire is a VA, virtual assistant. Oh, that is so good. Or you might go to Fiverr and get somebody great at graphics or videos. Is it worth you taking 5 hours to make a video, like a reel for your Facebook? Or is it better for you to pay somebody $25? 5 hours, $25. Because if it took you 5 hours to do it, I'm the worst. I'm just telling you, I'm the worst. Like, you don't even want to see my videos, they're so bad. 5 hours of my time, that makes me pay myself $5 an hour. I could tell you I'm at like $500 an hour. You know what I mean? And I'm like, why am I doing a task that's $5 an hour when I can pay somebody to do it? And it probably took them 20 minutes, because they're highly skilled and trained. So you got to look at that, when it comes to leveraging, I think about that. It was one of the books that I read by Dan Kennedy. It was like No BS Time Management, I think was the book. And Dan talks about, you figure out what your value is per hour, and anything that is less than that is a task that you got to hire out. It's one of the things he talks about, and get somebody to do it for you. We don't mow the lawn because it would take us 3 hours. We calculated, like, this is leveraging. Okay, if we bought a lawnmower at $4,000 to $5,000, because we live on a half acre, you can't do it by a little hand push mower. So we got this mower, and then the time, it was actually cheaper to hire a lawn service for $45 or $40 every mow. So, like, that's how you look at, okay, what's investment, what's a good leverage? Some people say, oh, you're paying that person every week. But I'm like, this is the investment. Like, you know what I mean? It makes more sense to just, and then they've got to maintain the equipment, right? That's, that's that. So we have, we have that leverage, and we've got the scaling. So I'm just going to quickly go through the 10 for you. First thing was relentless. Well, the first thing was, this is a journey. You're on a journey to success. Let me rewind one more second. A couple people are coming in. There was a time change this week. From here forward, it will be 9 o'clock Central. I have an appointment at 10 that started last week and I had to change. I just got to bump it an hour early. So if you did miss this, I will put the recording in. So don't worry. And I appreciate that. And if you haven't done your quick start call, if you're from the Skool community, make sure you do your quick start call. There's this step 2 or something like that. Make sure you do that. So we can help you launch in the Skool community. We've got some really cool things coming. I'm planning out if you've got any concepts you want for the Wednesdays, please send them to me. I've got a couple in the brew because I'll be announcing the ones from uh very soon because February's already next week. Oh my gosh, February 5th is next week. Next call. Oh my gosh, February 5th. What happened to January? So I'll be doing all of February in the next couple days, just in my spare time, in my 18 hours. I need a vacation a little bit. All right, so let me recap for you. The first one was relentless. Well, the very first one was focus, not focus. I just got derailed with doing my little wrap up here before we wrapped up. The very first thing was this is a journey. You're on a journey. This is not overnight growing your business. You've got to be committed and going the long haul and working on yourself and being committed to that. Okay. So in the other top 10, the first one is relentless focus on income producing activities. The second one is unshakable resilience. The third one is calculated risk taking. Okay. Obsessive learning and adaptation is the fourth one. The fifth one is strong sales and negotiating skills. The sixth one is high level networking and relationships, is who you know. The seventh one is being a massive action taker. The eighth one is extreme personal discipline. The ninth one is visionary thinking with execution, not just thinking. And the 10th one is mastery of leverage and scaling. So there you go, everybody. This is a great group. We got so many people here. I want to say hello to everybody and goodbye to everybody because some of you just came in and I apologize. I did a little switcheroo on you over the weekend and I promise this is recorded, but I promise it'll be 9 a.m. from here forward. I do like 10 a.m. better because I'm not a morning person, but I am for all of you. I promise. I want to make sure that I get this to you. I know this is super important. I want to help you be able to grow your business, have the tools, have the mindset to do that. And this is, like I said, it's a top priority for me. I also love it. I believe firmly when people come live. It's an important thing to come live because it demonstrates the commitment you have to your business. And if you can come live, do so. You might be at work, you might be homeschooling the kids, you might be drinking your coffee, especially if you're on the West Coast, your eyes are just opening, it's like it's a little early, but I think it's so important to come live and participate because it's a commitment to your business. And this is business, is business growth. And spending the commodity that you're investing into yourself right now is your time, which is very critical. And this will help you inspire you through the day. And the rest of the week. All right, everybody, I will see you next week. I got to hop. Now, I got my own appointments and I'll see you. Thank you for coming and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. You're welcome. Bye-bye.